It's the Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling Podcast. My name is Josh, and with me as always, it's
the new world order. The new world order. The new world order. Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling, New World Order Edition. What's up?
all right. That was
I stole
great.
the intro, just like NWO would in WCW days.
That was great. That was some like acapella stuff, Josh.
Dude, hey, that's what we aim to please. So we got the hot box roaring. Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling gmail.com. Hit us up. Leave us some comments, concerns, suggestions, comments. You can also hit us up on YouTube as well. But Josh, we had a topic sent to us via the hot box at Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling gmail.com. That was overkill. I don't know if I needed to include that twice, but now you have it. So we had a topic, and it's really about the NWO. What laid out for us, Josh?
Yeah, somebody sent us in the hot box. Just talk about the NWO. What are some of our favorite moments, favorite memories, thoughts, maybe any suggestions we might have that could have prevented the collapse of NWO. Maybe that'd be interesting. Just talk about NWO was the crux of it. Yeah.
No, I'm glad we're doing this because we did have our one show about Tony Schiavone. We actually debunked that Tony Schiavone was the reason why WCW fell. It could have been one of the reasons, but it wasn't the sole reason, as the revisionist history would have you believe. So yeah, when it comes to the NWO, in a way, it was sort of off to a bad start from the beginning. It was a great idea. Well, the idea was actually done initially in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Chris Jericho was actually part of the group there. So although you could argue that there's always sort of been this kind of faction that their job was to sort of run the company, so to speak. The thing about the NWO is their job was to come and destroy. It wasn't to necessarily take over. It was to destroy WCW. There's sort of this underlying, although never mentioned, sort of underlying thought of how the NWO was injected by WWE. And this, again, I'm kind of talking more kayfabe here.
Right.
It was injected into, as far as WCW, to bring it down, to ruin it. They always mention the North and all that and so on and so forth.
They hint a little bit.
Yeah. So I think the idea was that was, they were never meant to take it over. It was just to destroy it. Well, that's sort of, I think, kind of a problem in itself is that, well, what do you do when you destroy it?
You can't do it. You can't destroy the company because you need the company to exist. Yeah,
right.
I know. I'm with you.
Well, and I think the whole point, like initially with Thunder, that was supposed to eventually be an NWO show. So you had a WCW show and an NWO show. But again, that's not fun because the whole thing with the NWO is to actually destroy. But Josh, what are some of your favorite memories about the NWO?
Well, I think we should start at the start, right?
Yeah.
With the outsiders, Mr. Hall and Mr. Nash wearing their mom jeans, coming in, and what was it? It was a disturbance in the parking lot, right?
Well, it was during like a Mike Enos match, I think, and Scott Hall just started walking through the crowd, and at that point, everyone's like, "Oh, it's Razor Ramon's in WCW," and then it kind of built up to like, I'm coming back next week, and I've got a big surprise, and then as you're mentioning, Kevin Nash came out.
That's right. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, yeah. So the outsiders just rampaging through. This is something new, or at least in the States. We've never really seen this. I think we were surprised to find out they weren't with WWE anymore or WWF at the time. It was another Lex Luger type situation.
It was before the 90-day clause and all that. So people did jump ship like the next night.
and you still had people back in those days thinking there was some dose of reality in there. They thought, oh shit, WWF's really escalating the Monday Night War here. They're bringing in actual guys. WWE came at them with a tank. I mean, it's only fair that maybe Hall and Nash come over here. But
hey, actually, funny story about that. So I was reading from in an Eric Bischoff interview where it was actually security's decision to lock the doors. Eric Bischoff said he didn't know about it. Had he known about it, he would have let them come right in.
Yeah.
That would have helped his ratings out.
Oh, sure.
So I think that's kind of an interesting standpoint. Could you imagine that type of simulcast scenario in the history of wrestling? That would have been just incredible.
Right.
It would have been DX versus NWO in the prime. Like, oh man, what an opportunity.
Well, that's the thing though. Like, in our minds and stuff, we're thinking that would be great. But like, I'm pretty sure that the plan from WWE was hinging on the fact that they would block the door and that they wouldn't be able to get through. Because like, what would they have done if they had gotten through? Like, how do you they didn't work together on anything, the two companies.
They had to be, they had to have been prepared for it. Vince McMahon was in on this. Kind of HBK was in on this. Triple H, they're it was the DX faction that was running the show. I'm sorry, HBK wasn't there, but Triple H, and the others.
Right.
So this had to have been like, obviously they had to think, two things are going to happen. 85% chance. Nah, they're not going to let us in. Yeah. But if they do, what are we going to do? And maybe that's what they would just, back then wrestlers cut their own promos. They weren't as outlined and scripted as nowadays. So they might have just gone with it right then and there. Who knows? We could have had a reverse curtain call.
Oh.
You never know.
Can you imagine the possibilities? There should be like a what if, like Marvel Comics.
Oh my
what
goodness.
If for, we do that sometimes.
Well, we do. Yeah. Well, Eric Bischoff, he had mentioned, and actually Triple H, I think, or no, maybe Shawn Michaels had backed this up as well too, that he was offering 10 times the amount of like what Triple H and Shawn Michaels were making in WWE just to jump ship and come to WCW. And he said, hey, I'll settle all your lawsuits. Ted Turner's going to take care of all your lawsuits. Come over to WCW. So imagine like Triple H and Shawn Michaels going to WCW. There would never be like a Triple H Stephanie situation. Perhaps. We don't know. But like, then I'm sure Stephanie would have married some type of, corporate guru somewhere. I can't really picture any of the wrestlers she would marry, to be honest, besides Triple H.
Make it real.
Wow. Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed. But yeah, I get your point though. But no, in terms of like actual fun things, it was one of those where, it was something new. You just didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. I remember Tony Schiavone be like, fans, we have called for additional backup from the local Dallas Police Department. I'm like, oh man, it's getting serious.
It's getting real.
Even though I knew it was predetermined, they were able to build it up. Of course, Tony Schiavone, every match you saw as far as called by Tony Schiavone was the greatest match you'll ever witness in your life. Yep. But that's good. I mean, as a commentator, you should always oversell and undersell, right? But no, just the fact that every week they're coming in and they were taking over WCW, seeing the back and forth. WCW would finally get one over, like Lex Luger had beat Hollywood Hulk Hogan on a Monday Nitro for the world title, only to drop it 6 days later at a Hog Wild, but whatever. Just to see those small victories. And then I remember the first time I actually started like booing NWO was when they made fun of the Four Horsemen. Oh. That was a good segment, but I was like, when they did Arn Anderson, I was like, I got offended, and that's good. They got their heat. They knew what they were doing. Yeah.
Turning it up.
So they knew what they were doing. So I think when it got to the point where it was so unpredictable, you just didn't know what they're going to do next. That's when it was like, yes, and I'm on to something. This is great. And at the time, of course, being a more seasoned fan, I think back on this, but at the time, I never thought about the exit strategy. Like, how would the NWO like actually, what's the ultimate goal here? But what are some other memories of yours that come to mind, Josh?
Bash at the Beach, 1996.
That's right.
The third guy, 3-on-3 match. Who's the third man?
Who did you think the third guy was? Did you think it was Hogan at the time?
No, I don't think anybody imagined that when Hogan did come to the ring, everybody thought he was there to help out Macho Man or whoever.
I actually thought
you had a feeling
as soon as he was coming out, I was like, there's something off, and I'm like, why would he? The reason why was because this is Hulk Hogan at that point, the greatest and strongest and smartest face of all time. Why would he show up later in the match?
Wow,
that's when I started. The gears started turning. I'm like, what's happening here? And then when he got in the ring, I knew right away. He was gonna do it. I was like, oh my gosh! But I actually thought for some reason it'd be Yokozuna because Yokozuna just left like WWE around then, or was planning on, and I sort of thought it'd be Yokozuna because I didn't understand the scope of what was happening at this point. No one, I don't think. Well, I think most people maybe didn't think Hogan. At the time, I did. When the moment he walked out, then I'm like, oh, it's Hogan. But same situation. Hogan was having, again, it's kayfabe as we see now in hindsight, but he was having contractual like discussions, so you didn't really actually think Hogan was under contract at that point. Sure. But that's the thing about the internet, sort of spoils it nowadays where we know too much. But no, dude, like what were you like when Hogan did the leg drop?
It was stunning, really. You're just like, wait, that's Macho Man. Hold on. Wait, why did he just do that? And then you see the audience slowly start to realize, like, it trickles up from the front row to the back. It's slowly like, hey, what boo! Oh man. And Hogan had this expression on his face, you could tell in a way, I think he was getting a lot of enjoyment out of this after being a goody-goody for so many years. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, etc. And then to be able to do this, and the heat was just palpable, man. And people throwing
the garbage.
Things.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I was just sitting there like, whoa, what the hell? Just stunned like everybody else. I can't really say I can't say I called it. I definitely didn't call it. Yeah. But oh man, that was a moment.
Well, and when I remember Tony Schiavone like commentating and being like, Hogan, you can go straight to hell. And I'm like, you just said hell on TV. And this is before, as far as the Attitude Era and really just TV in general got a little looser. But it was like when he said hell, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never heard that on TV before. Right. Maybe Simpsons, but other than that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it actually just happened. It just added to it. But yeah, it was one of those where you didn't know what was going to happen next. You didn't know who was going to turn. Like every time someone turned, it was like, oh no, the cancer's spreading.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my biggest arguments with the NWO is that it's repackaged seasoned wrestlers wrestlers with it. I shouldn't even say repackaged in the sense they took an NWO t-shirt and put it on an established star. You know, that's what they did. And I think the problem with that is there was never any development. There was never someone to take it over. And I think that's actually what they could have done with the NWO is made like a younger generation they were grooming, and they would eventually take over the NWO itself. That's, I think, kind of a way they could have, as far as extended the NWO. And of course, they could have also had the war between the Wolfpack and the NWO Hollywood. That could have gone a lot longer. That should have gone almost a year.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it was done over in a couple months.
They didn't know where to take things.
Well, they didn't know where to take things, and that's where you have when you let the inmates run the asylum.
Yeah.
Where everyone's got creative clause in their contract. It's just like it's too much. But
there's so many things. Like if we want to talk about like how to sustain it and how to at least keep it going, just don't give it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks through the door. Put them in a faction or the LWO or the NWO or NWO Wolfpack Elite or NWO Polka Dots. I don't know. Like, was that Dusty Rhodes' faction? Who knows anymore? We might have been in the NWO at some point and we just didn't know it. I'll find a T-shirt under my bed one day and say, oh yeah, that one weekend in Vegas.
Officially, 62 wrestlers were included. This is including WCW, New Japan. It's also including WWE, because when the NWO was in WWE for a little bit, we saw the likes like Booker T, Ric Flair.
That's right.
It was revealed Shawn Michaels was the instigator. Someone had to tell Hall and Nash to go to Hogan. It was me. I'm like, wow, way to get take that cherry on that.
Retroactive.
Yeah, right.
Continuity there.
So hey, but why not? I mean, it kind of made sense, right, with the curtain call and all that. But no, I think that was really when you look at the NWO, they didn't have a whole lot of development, save Buff Bagwell, and Eric Bischoff. I mean, okay, yeah, you can say Hogan, Hall and Nash, but they were already established, so they did a bit with their characters. Obviously, they weren't Diesel and Razor Ramon and the Hulk Hogan we knew. So there was that. But then past that, you had like Vincent, who was just Virgil, again wearing like an NWO t-shirt. Same with Ted DiBiase. He there was not much change to him. Of course, Paul White, the Giant, again, same situation. He was just a big hoss, a big ogre walking around. You could maybe make the argument for Six for X-Pac. Okay. But again, it was sort of the same thing. He was different from the 1, 2, 3 kid, but then it was like he created the role in the NWO as Six-Pac, and then he just became Six, and then he became X-Pac and DX, which there wasn't a change. So I guess there was kind of a change there. But Buff Bagwell comes to mind as someone that they really did develop, and he's a talent. I mean, this guy is a 5-time tag team champion. He's been a champion with 5 different people too. Not many people can say that. Like they can say they were 5-time tag champs, but with different people. So, and Buff Bagwell, I think he was over with the fans. People liked him. He provided that comic relief because everything was always so serious about the NWO. Now, speaking of one of my favorite memories about it was the rise of Diamond Dallas Page. Even before that, when Diamond Dallas Page won the Battle Bowl, he was winning like the TV title. Right. He broke off from Diamond Doll and Max Muscle. Even seeing that, and then at one point, like he had lost everything. He was living homeless on the street, and there was a storyline where he was homeless on the street, and there was a college graduate who's doing a thesis on homelessness and recorded this. And he's like, I just recorded this for my thesis, and I returned it to WCW headquarters, and then they aired it. And Tony Schiavone's like, we had this video from this grad student. It's the best video you ever seen from a grad student. And it was, we sort of saw Diamond Dallas Page was like homeless, and then he got a benefactor and he picked himself off the street. And again, see that rise from manager to pro wrestler, then the fall, but then to make the rise all the way to world champion. And he was like the punching bag for the NWO. He'd come out, he would say, self high five. I don't care who's back there. All of a sudden, 40 members of the NWO come out, beat his butt every week, spray paint him, and somehow he'd be back the next week. I want more. Like, it was cool to kind of see that anti-hero,
You got to give it up for him. And he wasn't the youngest guy either. That's the thing.
No, you're right.
Keep that in mind, too.
Right.
So
he was a fresh talent, but you're right.
Started at 35.
I know.
Got him credit.
Isn't that crazy? But no, it was kind of cool to see that. And he was kind of one of the only guys that never did join the NWO officially. It was almost like this turn. He was about to join the NWO Wolfpack, but then someone came from behind and knocked him out, and we never got his answer. We turned in the next week, and of course it never came up again. So DDP was always sort of a one-man army, but that was cool to see that rise. And of course Goldberg, which is interesting because like you saw Goldberg and Raven's Flock, but they're sort of this other layer. Right? They were sort of happening on the side and all that. But yeah, no, there's a lot of good things that came out of the NWO. What are some other memories?
Remember when Sting came out and he's got the black and white wolf NWO and say, oh, he's joining NWO. And then he clocks, who is it, Hall? He hits Hall with a chair. And then he takes off and it's the Wolf Pack. That was a great moment.
Right. Everything was off the table at that point. Anyone could have joined. In fact, funny story about that. So the original third guy was Sting, right?
Oh, really?
Bischoff and the administration had a backup plan. So if Hogan didn't show up or decided to no-show or actually go to WWF because he was in contract negotiations. If he actually went back there, as far as backup plan was to use Sting. So could you imagine if like that flight never showed up, how different the NWO would have been? I mean, Sting, Hall, and Nash, that would have been something.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't have been Hogan, Hall, and Nash, you know?
Not that kind of revelation, yeah.
Well, Sting's an icon, but he wasn't. We're talking about Hulk Hogan. We're talking pre-2006 Hulk Hogan. We're talking the guy, the man, the icon, and for lack of a better word, the god of wrestling.
Right.
You know, he was able to command a crowd like no other. When he hulked up as Hulkamaniacs, he brought wrestling into as far as the limelight, and of all that we have to give credit. He is the Babe Ruth of professional wrestling. Although I think WB has sort of retired that and given it to John Cena, as we saw in the video montage at WrestleMania. But again, getting back to the point, Hogan, Hall, and Nash, that would have been so much. That would have been so much different than Sting, Hall, and Nash.
Oh, totally. I mean, honestly, they probably would have incorporated a Hogan heel turn at some point later, because I'm sure they just wouldn't want to give that up. But because he was the guy and he was the big reveal, that still would have really mixed things up. That's for sure.
Well, and they wanted the thing is they knew when they were going to go with Hogan, there was no turning back. Yeah. So they had Hall and Nash, and they had this idea like, let's just do it. We have to do it. It's the best thing we can do. I don't think at the time they thought they were actually competing with WWE. Well, because they were a bit reluctant to go to Monday Nitros. They were a bit reluctant to do like Thunder and all that.
Right.
So I think they kind of just wanted to organically grow, but they're like, we got to go all in if we're going to actually do this. But I don't know that they actually thought it would get to what they had. I think they were hoping that, but I think in the back of their mind, they're like, I don't know if this is enough. We got to take a risk. But it was a risk that paid off.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I don't think they knew at all. I think they were just, going to see where it was another angle, see where it goes, and but yeah, nobody anticipated it get this big and this unwieldy. It was, I mean, what's the term, like death of 1,000 cuts? Yeah. It'd be like little things like, Hogan gets a contract renegotiation, gives him a little more power. Hall and Nash maybe do the same a little bit. They get more money, they get more influence backstage slowly.
They're not wrong, and they're not wrong either. I mean, that's
like,
Kevin Nash, maximum payment, minimum effort.
Yeah,
it's how it works in the business world.
It is, but like we always got to remember this is a creative endeavor still.
Yeah.
So it's always a little bit different. Like I totally get it. Like, hey, cash in, man. Ted Turner had deep pockets, like go for it. But anyway, like it was like little things like that, and then like the New World Order would slowly add more members, and you say, oh well, this guy needs a push, so give him a New World Order shirt. There you go. Is he gonna do anything? Who the hell knows? Like like little things that it slowly just led to the complete collapse.
Well, yeah, that's our point earlier is that there was never any development. Again, with Buff Bagwell comes to mind. Eric Bischoff was another good development.
Sure.
When going from the commentator to actually dark president of NWO and WCW. So he did that really well. But yeah, there's never this development. And I think really getting to the point of what happened with the NWO, there was never an exit strategy. With wrestling, you have to book long term and you have to understand where you're going with. That was where I was saying it was kind of doomed from the beginning because the NWO, their whole job was just to destroy WCW. It wasn't actually to take it over. But I'm thinking once you destroy it, you just kind of like shot yourself in the foot because now you don't have a job.
You can't. Yeah, you
Again, thinking kayfabe,
it,
right? Like so. In terms of ending the NWO, what I would have done is I would have had like a giant war. Now I picture this taking place on like a Starrcade. That was their flagship pay-per-view at the time. Yeah. Having this take place at Starrcade, either you could do like a best of 7 matches, and essentially if the NWO wins the majority, they get executive order of WCW. If WCW wins the best of the 7, they retain the executive order, and then from there the NWO is forced to disband. And then you can just, as far as regroom and build and as far as replace everyone in the NWO, I think another cool thing would be, again, still do it at Starrcade, but have like 100-person battle royal. And it's half WCW, half NWO, last remaining members, winner takes all.
There you go.
I feel like there had to be a definitive war to end the war.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is they never wanted to pull the trigger on that. It's almost like, I wonder if maybe they got arrogant or too self-assured and they said, no, it's doing fine. We don't need to make it come to a close. We're doing fine. And then by the time they saw the writing on the wall, I mean, basically Vince McMahon had written a check. So I wonder if that's just what it was. Because, these are great ideas. And I'm sure they would have come up with something like that, like some kind of definitive end. It's just, I don't think they wanted a definitive end,
I mean, well, that's the issue with like the NWO is that there was 2 endings. One in WCW where it just sort of fizzled away.
Right.
Like I remember at one point it got down to, there was a 4-person battle royal. Okay. I said that, all right? A 4-person battle royal, and the winner would become the new as far as leader of NWO, and I believe in this battle royal it was Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat, the Harris Brothers, and Scott Steiner. It was just those remaining 4, and I'm sorry, it was Vincent. Vincent was in it too as well. Okay, so I think it was Vincent instead of Steiner, but the winner got to take over as far as NWO. Well, Stevie Ray wins, but it's like you won a battle royal for 4 people. That didn't make any sense. Why didn't you have a fatal 4-way? So Stevie Ray runs his group of like 4 guys, and then like 2 weeks later, it was just like gone. It was like you turned on, you never saw the NWO again. That's the first way how it kind of like died in WCW.
Yeah.
And WWE, Vince McMahon just came out and proclaimed, well, every era's got to end, and this is the end of the NWO era.
And that was it.
And then that was it. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was again a weird situation with the NWO, but I mean, overall, you have to think about what it did for wrestling. It wasn't necessarily an original idea, but what it did for wrestling, it changed the face of it for decades and generations to come.
Oh yeah. It led to the formation of Degeneration X.
I mean, essentially, that's what WWE was thinking, was like, WCW's got all these old guys and they're in this group together, but we've got all these younger guys.
Right.
Why are we not doing anything like that? And so fanboy me always wanted to see some type of merge, like a DXO.
Oh wow, yeah.
That'd been kind of cool,
wild.
but they're both trying to take over WCW and WWE, which essentially it was really happening.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like, I mean, they were having conversations outside of that. They didn't have cell phones. No, they did, I guess. Now think about it, they had cell phones in '97.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were, and they could certainly afford it then. Back then, it was like what $800 a deposit. It was like what you may have gotten back. But again, I think that they all kind of knew what they were doing. They were keeping themselves in tune with the other companies. I'm sure, like when Hall and Nash said, I'm sure they probably told Triple H and HBK, don't come over here. The money might be worth it, but it's not going to be good for you long term.
Yeah.
Because I think they understood Triple H and Shawn Michaels had some more years, but Scott Hall had a lot of personal issues, and Kevin Nash, it seemed like he never wanted to wrestle. Again, maximum payment, minimum effort. Why would you wrestle? You risk being injured if you get away with it. But again, that's kind of the business side of it. But no, I think that with the NWO, there's a lot of things that I would definitely change. Of course, Sting, Hollywood Hogan, that match altogether, the ending was basically botched, and that was supposed to be a huge lead up to that. So that's definitely something I would have changed. But again, to see guys like Roddy Piper get out there and take on Hogan and main event Starrcade and win, to see those types of things. But yeah, I do think overall there's more good things about the NWO than bad.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, nostalgia glasses only go so far. If it was bad or if it was mostly bad, we'd remember it as such. We wouldn't have such fondness for it. That's for sure. But I mean, having said that, remember NWO sold out?
Yeah, I do remember that. The pay-per-views. That not your favorite?
I like it in a way because I'm one of those guys who watches bad movies and gets a kick out of them. It's like this is one of those like so good, it's so bad it's good pay-per-views almost. Yeah. Like they rode to the venue, Bischoff and the other guys. They rode to the venue on fucking garbage trucks, man. Like how symbolic is that, right? Like, I remember Miss NWO sold out. Tried to find like the trashiest
and Eric
woman.
Bischoff was just saying, we looked all over for the trashiest women here in Dubuque, Iowa.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't know what they were trying. It was just such a weird, like, bizarro universe, dystopian take on, like, a pay-per-view. Like, remember, like, when like, WCW guys or somebody would come out, you'd hear, like, loser.
Yeah.
Like,
which I like that part.
Which is, because it's just so weird. Every now and then I'll put it on, and I'll just watch and just be like, what were they doing? It's just one of those.
I kind of wish they'd actually just played it straight, but then every once in a while had, like, loser. Or like, I wish they kind of done that, but like they kept making fun of the fans and all that, kind of actually tearing down their own product.
Yeah, that's why it's so weird.
Yeah, which I thought was weird because, again, it's like, but their job was to take over, and maybe from their perspective, they're wasting WCW money and this is based on WCW's dime. So maybe that's where they're going with that. I don't know, but what else? I guess how would you end the NWO?
I'd probably do something similar to what you said. I mean, the only reasonable ending I can see is some sort of war somewhere. Maybe you bring back the triple-decker cage or something like that. Like, it would have to be something really big, that's for sure. It wouldn't necessarily be a 100-man battle royale, but
that's never been done.
That's never been done. I mean, I'd be okay with that. Like, if that was a thing, like it would just have to be something big.
Yeah.
And there would have to be a definitive end with lines clearly drawn and somehow merge like the smaller factions together, maybe something like that, so that there's just one A versus B. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You'd have NWO taking on WCW, and you would see in the same thing, like the Four Horsemen teaming up with Sting.
Yeah.
Teaming up with not Savage, but teaming up with Glacier and Ernest the Cat Miller, and as far as like all these different like tag teams and whatnot, all the luchadors, everyone's stepping up to save their livelihood. Yeah. So I think that's what you have either WCW or NWO, 50 versus 50.
That'd be pretty intense.
100-person battle royal.
What if it's 50 on 50, but it's an elimination elimination match with like a triple decker cage somehow, and
you throw them off
just,
3 steel cages.
yeah,
on top. Wow.
you just go all out, man. Like,
Well, I thought about like a doomsday match, right? Probably the biggest spectacle in wrestling. The doomsday match from WCW was 4 steel cages, but that was basically involved you trying to get out. So I don't know. I guess you could put 100 people in a steel cage, and then whoever gets out the last, or I don't know, whoever gets out first.
See, that's the thing. Yeah, you have
tough,
to figure out like a team situation too. Oh man, they could have figured it out.
They could have done a fall brawl, I guess. Last person standing or last team standing, but they sort of already did that. And again, you need something huge that hasn't been done, something epic.
Right.
And again, this is a situation where this is a war to end the war.
Right.
And so they've done a fall brawl. They've had certainly the steel cage matches and all that. They've done all the other types of matches, but a 60-person. I'm sorry, 60. And they've done 60-person battle royals, but never a 100-person battle royal.
Right.
This would be a way to end everything.
The
Winner takes all.
End it all.
Yeah, dude. But no, I do have a lot of fond memories. It's kind of I shouldn't say it was when I first started watching wrestling. It was more New Generation WWE, and then also with WCW. But this is pre-Nitro.
Yeah.
When they'd have Sting and Ric Flair. Basically WCW Saturday Night when that was hot. And I love that show. That's still probably one of my favorite wrestling shows to date. Was Saturday Night.
That's not on the network yet, is it?
It is actually.
It is now. Okay.
They do have it on there. Yeah. So I've checked out some, but it's awesome. And just seeing like Das Wunderkind and Brian Pillman and Chris Jericho. That's how they got their starts. They got their start before that, but in terms of like WCW getting as far as notice on a national TV level. So yeah, it was always good to see. But yeah, no man, the NWO, I was always a mark for them, and I remember just kind of never wanting to end. But then when it sort of like ended, I was kind of like, I don't know, I was sort of sad by it. It was like, oh man, well the better days are behind us, right? But
we'll always have the memories on the WWE network.
That's right. Do you think do you think we'll see an NWO Hall of Fame induction?
Oh, there's got to be at some point, but this Hogan thing needs to cool down more. But maybe I also take the stance, fuck Hogan now. I don't know, like. We'll always have the fond memories of NWO, but to see Hogan up there with Hall and Nash talking, it's going to be really, really distasteful to see that. You know what I mean? So it's like I hate to be the rain on parade guy, but you got to keep that in mind.
Well, if they induct the NWO, I really just want to see Hall, Nash, and Hogan.
Right.
But they start throwing in like X-Pac and stuff. It's like, dude, he shouldn't be a 2-time Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like they inducted him via DX. I'm like, all right. I just don't think he's deserving necessarily.
That's the
just to be honest.
Thing. Yeah, about the teams and stables. Yeah,
right. And to me, he's actually one of the greater workers I've seen over time.
Right.
Sean Waltman. But I just don't think he's deserving to be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean that's a high honor.
Well, it should be
to get there even once.
But then again, you have like the celebrity wing, right? That's already dilutes it. But then you're right. Yeah, should Sean Waltman be then a 2-time Hall of Famer? I don't think so. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like you got Hogan, Hall, and Nash. But then do you induct Big Show? Do you induct Ted DiBiase with them? Do you induct Virgil?
That's the thing. Do you put all 62 people, on a big plaque?
Yeah, I don't think you have to do all 62, but especially consider like Booker T's already a 2-time Hall of Famer.
Or like Buff
Flair, this make his like fifth Hall of Fame. But yeah, right. But I definitely see like Hogan, Hall, and Nash. And then if they wanted to go outside of that, maybe you're looking at like
further.
You're looking at Big Show, X-Pac, Ted DiBiase, and really Virgil. That's like the first 7 people of the NWO. So, but even then, I don't think you should go past the 3. But that's the thing is like the NWO, and maybe that's what it is. It's just it's inducted as like as kind of like a void of some sort. Like Hulk Hogan inducts the NWO.
Oh, I see.
Literally just says NWO, but no, it's not an actual physical person.
The spirit of
the spirit of NWO. Maybe it's the way they get away from that.
That could be interesting. That'd be a way.
There you go.
And then maybe you just show a montage of some moments and some of the guys and things like that. That could work.
And have like Hogan. You could have Hogan, Hall, and Nash sort of induct the idea of the NWO. So that might be.
There you go.
Well, because that's again. I don't think Scott Hall should be a 2-time Hall of Famer. I don't think Nash should be a 2-time Hall of Famer. Any case, great question. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No.
Dude,
that was a good question.
Thanks again for hitting us up in the hot box. JoshTalkWrestling@gmail.com. Leave us YouTube comments. Email us as well. But let's get right down to it for the news. What happened this week?
Stomping Grounds was Sunday, and you know what? I thought it was a pretty decent pay-per-view, which is really sad because it was a really poorly attended pay-per-view, and tickets barely sold. It's
small but mighty crowd. Small but mighty crowd.
It was, yeah. That crowd. I think a lot of people were really jazzed to be sitting in the front row instead of the nosebleeds. nosebleeds.
Could be.
So they were part of that was the excitement. But yeah, it was a very excited crowd. And it was a decent show, which it's just so sad that it did so poorly. Like, I mean, I'll rip on WWE when they deserve it, but this was a decent pay-per-view that more people should have seen, I think.
Well, I think people after Super Showdown and the past couple pay-per-views and sort of what we've seen on the TV, I wasn't expecting much.
Yeah,
now,
nor
of course,
I.
We're podcast investigative journalists, so we're gonna watch this stuff as needed.
Right.
And of course, I do want to. I still love wrestling. I want WWE to keep doing well.
Sure.
So yeah, of course I tuned in, but I was also worried. I'm like, I'm just kind of tuning in just to tune in. But I actually felt pretty good after the kickoff show. The 205
that
match,
was great.
which really was awesome.
Great.
But then I started thinking, was that the best part of the pay-per-view was the kickoff show? And you're right. It was a great pay-per-view all around, but I think people were expecting another crapshoot.
Yeah.
And they had low expectations, or they didn't want to watch it at all. But you're right. It was a shame. It was a great pay-per-view. They didn't sell a whole lot of tickets, but I think you're right. I think people are maybe jazzed to get a closer seat. I remember.
I would be.
Well, I remember my first wrestling show ever was a Nitro in Des Moines, Iowa. And we got seats that were like all the way at the back. Well, of course, they weren't selling anything. They moved us to the 5th row.
Nice.
So I was like, this is awesome, and getting to see like Goldberg and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and all, and like, this is really, really cool. And I was really excited. So of course I was even more energized than before.
Right.
But so maybe you're right, but it was definitely a ruckus crowd. It was small but mighty.
It was small but mighty, that's for sure. Like so the thing is, they knew early on the ticket sales were in the dumps and stuff. So I almost wonder if that contributed to this being a better show than it could have been. Like, I wonder if maybe Vince saw, he's like, we're doing terrible. I wash my hands of the situation, and he passes it off to a road manager or something, and maybe because maybe he went so hands off and he just said, go out there and wrestle. I wonder if that might have contributed to the show being better. It's kind of sad to say, but maybe because creative wasn't so involved, maybe it worked out.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if the TV ratings weren't telling him that, I don't think it was just this particular show, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, at some point you have to think, okay, only a couple. Like, what was the actual ticket count? Do you know? Like, the attendance?
I don't know what the ticket. I don't have numbers on that yet.
You know what's interesting? Because I actually read an interview. I think it was Dave Meltzer. He had mentioned that there was no actual official attendance number, like as far as the actual attendance, where it's usually noted throughout the program.
Right.
It wasn't actually noted anywhere in the program or live. Yeah. So it must have been low enough they didn't want to.
Been pretty bad. Well, I know that the Raw the next night was an attendance of 3,500.
I know. I heard that. I was like, oh my gosh, dude.
3,500. Jeez Louise.
3,500. Like,
that's the lowest ever.
I think that's actually lower than anything I've ever heard. Like with WCW. Yeah. And I heard they're giving out free tickets and all that, but I'm like, oh my gosh. But no, they are doing things well. But I think it's just we're in this situation where people are just not excited about WWE.
Can you blame them?
They delivered, but they haven't been delivered.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the boy who cried wolf. Right. When you actually do have something, nobody's there to see it.
Right.
And that's really too bad. I mean, if Stomping Ground is the start of a trend, an upward swing, hey, by all means. But I don't know. I almost wonder if it's just a bump on the road, a little blip on the radar, and then it'll just go right back down. I don't know. I want to be proven wrong.
Well, I also think that you look at the card sort of shaping up for Extreme Rules, and you see kind of Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans is going to happen again. Now, nothing against Lacey Evans, but she needs some work.
Yeah.
She's been botching a little bit, and she's also thrust into the spotlight, essentially. She didn't do much in NXT. She basically shows up at WrestleMania, and the next night she's pushed into the main event. Now, I don't know if Vince is just obsessed with blondes or something, but like, I think that she needs some more time. Like, I like the character. I like her. I like her work. She does a really good job as far as cutting promos and all that. I just think it's a bit too much for her right now. She would eventually get there anyway, but I just think, wow, it's just so much pressure for her.
Yeah.
And they're throwing her into the limelight. Like, it's like, come on. There's no other women superstars that can actually main event against Becky Lynch? Come on.
There's a bunch. Where's Asuka?
Well, there's that, especially with the wild card challenge. You can also, hey, here's a thought. You can do a face versus face title match. That's fine.
If
it doesn't always have to be face heel. Yeah.
Yeah. Like my thing is like with Lacey Evans, I think she needs more time to cook. Like, her character, I don't know, she comes across as like a little bland and flat to me. I feel like if she had more time to like establish who she was. So she's a lady.
Right.
Whoop-de-friggin' do. Why is she so obsessed with Becky Lynch? Why
she's obsessed with the title.
Well, I get that, but it seems like she interjects this like this sort of personal thing, like, well, you're the man, you're a man, like almost. I feel like they could take it further, where like she wants to teach Becky a lesson about being a lady. You know what I mean? Because Becky's the man, and she's offended by it or something. Like it's not. It's sometimes it's just not enough for me for somebody to say my motivation is I want the title. Sometimes that works. Mm-hmm. If it's like guys that are like rivals, and like I could totally see like AJ Styles and maybe Finn Balor saying that to each other, that would work. But this doesn't seem to work because Lacey Evans and Becky Lynch, I'm pretty sure, don't have a history outside of WWE. WWE or anything. So like, if they could expand on her character a little more, I'd be a little more interested, because she's not a bad wrestler. She started to, when I saw at this show, I said, okay, hey, I'm turning my head a little. I'm realizing that.
But you shouldn't be doing that in a main event situation. Both wrestlers should be polished and well over. But I think to your point there, Josh, I think that she's under a lot of pressure, and so she's just not able to move along like that quite yet. So yeah, I think if they actually put her back in the mid card a little bit, had her work on some promos, actually have her get more seasoned in the ring, she would eventually bubble up again to main event status. I mean, she is for sure.
She'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, and she'll be a women's champion at some point.
That's for sure.
No doubt about it. But yeah, no, it was. I thought it was a pretty good pay-per-view altogether.
It was pretty good. I mean, the main events were good.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything that's going to set the world on fire.
Right.
The thing that I want to keep in mind, though, is that, like, we paid $10 for this pay-per-view because we're network subscribers. But, like, how much did it cost regularly? Is it like $30, $40?
$60, like $59.99. Yeah.
See, so that's the thing. If I was asked to pay $60 for it, though, I would not be happy with my purchase.
Well, you'd be a fool to nowadays. I mean, like right now, $60 that buys you 6 pay-per-views.
Like that's the thing. Well, I'm just the point I'm getting at is just like we have this sliding scale now, and I think we should still try to judge. It's hard, but we should still try to judge these things as $60, $70, whatever shows. So when you look at it that way, maybe it's not such a great match. But since we only paid $10, it was pretty good. So I just want to temper our opinions with that a little bit.
That's actually a good point. And I did think it was a sound pay-per-view, but I also thought it was a really predictable pay-per-view. There was no huge surprise. I guess Ricochet, I was
a nice surprise.
I was half expecting it though.
Oh, really?
I really was. Well, I mean, because at this point, Ricochet, even though he's a young buck in WWE, sorry Vince, don't sue me, but he's been all around, like Lucha Underground. He's done tons of wrestling. ROH. He's done wrestling all over the world.
Wrestled 6-star matches.
Right, exactly. So to me, it wasn't a surprise for him to win that. Plus, Samoa Joe is an enhancement talent. That's his job, is to put people over, like Rhino. That's their job, is to make people look good. So I sort of half expected that. But I mean, Daniel Bryan and Heavy Machinery, it was a good match. But again, I knew that Daniel Bryan, Rowan would retain.
Sure.
I actually had a good idea. Bayley's going to retain against Alexa. Roman Reigns, I was pretty sure he's going to beat Drew McIntyre. Had to at this point.
Right.
And I knew Kofi Kingston would beat Dolph Ziggler. I liked the finish, though. I wasn't expecting the finish.
Cool.
They timed it just right. So we're like, oh, because you're like, is this going to? And then the camera shot was perfect. So they did all right with that. But I know and then actually, I thought Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn would go over New Day.
Yeah, you thought so? Yeah.
I thought so because I knew Kofi Kingston was going to go over later in the match.
Oh, that's
later
true.
in the night. So I just added just to kind of even it out. Plus, you got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They need to get put over.
That's a good
New
point.
Day's already. New Day could go on a losing streak for like 30 weeks. They'll still be over.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You want to build their alliance a little bit more.
Yeah. But the Universal title, what were your thoughts on that?
Were
Were you expecting Lacey Evans as a special guest?
I did not expect that. I thought that was an interesting twist because, chair happy Rollins lately. That's a smart move. But I don't know. It's just like that's your main event. Baron Corbin versus Seth. I mean, Seth Rollins is great.
Yeah.
But you don't put Baron Corbin there. And he's a great worker. He always comes out there prepared, ready to go, and he's a good heel. Not knocking Baron Corbin. I'm just saying this is not. He's outclassed by Rollins. So, it's like, yeah, of course Rollins won. Like if anything else happened, there'd be a riot. Unless there was some kind of heavy duty interference that caused it to happen. And I'm glad that the interference was just limited to Lacey Evans' shenanigans.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, again, I think Baron Corbin, he's ready for that. He's ready for that next level. But the issue was, again, it was predictable. I knew Rollins would get over. So we always knew that. Plus, everyone just thought, oh, Baron Corbin's just a placeholder for Brock Lesnar. Who, again, I still think Brock Lesnar's going to cash in Kofi Kingston and be ready for the Fox TV deal this fall. So
if that still goes through, geez.
Well,
that's a whole other discussion.
That's a whole other discussion, right? But no, I thought, again, it was top to bottom. It was a good pay-per-view. I just thought it was predictable.
Yeah. I mean, Taco Bell, like I said last episode, you got some Taco Bell. It was good. It was just nothing you didn't already expect in some form,
But that's the thing. It's like that's how you sell pay-per-views. That's how you actually get people to attend shows, is you have no idea what's going to happen. You look at a card and you're like, wow, these matches could go either way. Now, it used to be like, well, the mid-card, low-card, you had a good idea what's going to happen. You knew it was going to be a good match, but you had a pretty good idea who was going to win. The main event, you really never knew. It used to be kind of,
that's the key.
I can kind of see it going both ways. Now, part of it, the internet ruins, but part of it is also just kind of lazy creative. But I thought that the main event was a nice thing with Lacey Evans. I actually wasn't sure who they're going to do as a special guest referee, and it actually didn't come to. I mean, I should have thought about it in hindsight. Seth Rollins is beating up every person, so it had to be someone that he couldn't beat up. Which Brock Lesnar comes to mind.
Sure.
Or it's essentially Seth Rollins, the gentleman, right?
Yeah.
A female superstar. So it never actually came to mind. It should have, but I also thought they might stick Brock Lesnar in there just for the show of it. But hey, it was better than I expected, and it was actually kind of one of those situations where I'm like, did I have such low expectations? Was that why it was good? I like to believe it was actually a pretty good pay-per-view. Again, predictable, but I thought top to bottom was a pretty good pay-per-view. I'm glad I tuned in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's solid. It's like a solid 8.
Yeah.
8 out of 10 or something, you know?
What about Raw the next night, though? Some interesting developments there.
Lowest attendance. Apparently the hard cam area was just curtained off.
Right.
I'm sorry. The funny thing about that is you have the wrestlers on the camera's there, so they're facing that way, but they're talking to no one in the audience.
Right.
I'm sorry. I just had to get that out. But
it's weird, isn't it? And it's just weird that we're talking about WWE like this. Like,
yeah.
I just always used to see sold out. But this is, I think part of it's maybe, with the network, people aren't going as much because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And just to be honest, I think about the Allstate Arena here in Chicago. And I'm sorry to be a jerk, but I nicknamed it the All Shitty Arena.
Yeah.
All right. Because I don't think it's very well set up. There's barely any concessions on the second floor. There's no exit aisles. Basically, if you have to get up and go to the restroom, you're walking past 30 or 40 people.
Yeah.
And you're always getting up during it. The seats, if you're anyone that's over, I would say 5 feet tall and 150 pounds, it's going to suck. They cram as many people in there as they can. It's just overall, it's not a good experience. And I think about it, I'm like, well, I could just hang out in the comfort of my own home, got this nice TV, kick on the network, get my own food, go to the Allstate Arena. It's like last time I was there, and this has been a bit, it was like $13 for a beer.
Oh my gosh.
I hate to sound cheap, but I'm like $13 for a beer?
Much. Yeah.
My gosh, I could get a 6-pack of good beer, and it's $13 for crappy. Well, I shouldn't say crappy, but it is $13 for domestic beer.
Well, still, yeah. No, I get you.
But I'm more of a microbrew guy myself. But yeah, it's just, again, I think the experience is better, and also we live such hectic lives. We live really hectic lives as people. We don't have time. That's why we use things like Grubhub and like Uber and things like the network and the apps, because we don't have time to actually go to it. We need to multitask, get things done at our home while we're watching something, and it just saves time, especially if you're in Chicago going all the way out to Rosemont for the Allstate. It takes a while to get out there. So, but again, that's just one example for us. I can only imagine these same thoughts are going through, those in the pay-per-view of Stomping Grounds.
Oh, I'm sure their stadium's even worse than the All Shitty Arena, and just situations worse, and traffic.
Technically,
problems,
Madison Square Garden is pretty crappy. I mean, it's more iconic at this point, but it's pretty run down. But
see, that's the thing. We have this kind of romanticized idea about live events, but you get there and the reality is awful sometimes. Like you ever go to I went to an AC/DC concert at United Center years ago. It took me an hour and a half to get out of the building. Yeah. Just to get out of the freaking building, and then I had to get home. It's just, I get what you're saying totally. Like, I feel like just like people are moving to streaming things like Hulu and Netflix as opposed to going to the movies so much or whatever, or they just wait.
It's cheaper, it's quicker.
Yeah, it's cheaper, it's more convenient, it's quicker. Like, for some people, appointment entertainment is simply out of the question. Right.
Well, I mean, I've been to 10 WrestleManias, and Josh, to your point, taking an hour and a half to get out, it takes about the same to get in. Yeah. I mean, any WrestleMania I've seen, like on the network or whatnot, you see like the kickoff show, people are still filing in. And I've been to enough WrestleManias where I hear the same thing from all the vendors. Well, we're only staffed for 60,000, but 80,000 of you showed up. Well, it's like 80,000 of us bought tickets in advance. All right, so you should have been staffed for 80,000. But again, I get where you can't always, as far as increase your staff numbers like that. And there might have been a lot of walk-ups. I don't know if there's 20,000 that day that walked up. Right. But you may have that. So anyway, again, I think it's something they have to sort of take that kind of paratheatrical sense to the pay-per-views and look at it from a creative standpoint. Do you actually want people in the show itself? Then you got to make the auditoriums better. You have to compete with home entertainment centers. So I think these things all factor into it. But yeah, getting to your point, Monday Night Raw, 3,500 people, and it was kind of like a bigger night. The Undertaker returned. Yeah. Who, by the way, I was thinking about this the other day. Corporate Ministry. There's actually 2 people we forgot to call out.
Oh, that's right.
The last podcast we had, we went through the whole stable of the Corporate Ministry. There's 2 we forgot. One was Mick Foley. There's corporate Mick Foley, and then 2, and I can't believe we dropped this one. It was the Undertaker.
Undertaker,
my favorite wrestler of all time, and he's probably like the most, I don't know, centrifugal part.
Yes, he is.
The most pivotal point of the Corporate Ministry through and through. So yeah, I can't believe we forgot those 2. But yeah, the Undertaker returned, and I guess we're gonna get a tag match. Yeah. Stipulation will be added. I would assume.
I'll work it out. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they'll have a double casket match.
That could be cool. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. Good to see Undertaker. I'm sorry that he probably went out there to the smallest crowd he's played in decades.
Yeah, maybe decades. Yeah. Wait, I used to like WrestleMania, which like 100 billion people. Right. It was like, oh, I can see the parking lot from here. Wow. It was just weird, But I think what was weird about it was, of course, I was excited to see the Undertaker come back. To me, it didn't make any sense. Roman Reigns as the big dog should be able to take on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Okay.
If this is his yard.
But I mean, they're also trying to put Drew McIntyre over too, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is saying something like Drew McIntyre, he is a badass, and Roman Reigns can't take care of him and Shane McMahon, so they needed the Undertaker to come out and help him out. Maybe that's where they're going with this, but yeah, we'll see that tag match at Extreme Rules. But yeah, no, we'll see that Extreme Rules tag match. I think it'd be I have to assume it's going to be a stipulation of some sort. I'm going to go with the double casket match, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. We'll see. Yeah.
A Buried Alive match. We could have a Buried Alive match. Yeah, bring it back.
A while.
Yeah, I think there's only been what, 2?
Yeah, it's very.
Was it Stone Cold and was it Mankind?
I think yeah.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. And then actually what we're going to see, speaking of another tag match, we're going to see for Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch.
Right.
So I'm sorry, Becky Lynch and her boyfriend, Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to see Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin in a tag match. Winner takes all. Kind of cool. Can't imagine Rollins and Lynch would not go over, but because they're going to go over and get their moment as far as kiss in the ring and all that, which they didn't do at Stomping Ground. So I think they're trying to save that for a big thing when they kiss in the ring, kind of like when Bella and Cena did. So,
right. Yeah, I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. I don't.
It was weird. Well, they're just kind of like hugging each other. I'm like, why would you not kiss? But then they probably were like, they could have just done like one kiss. They could have choreographed it where it was just like one kiss and that was it.
Nah.
Like I don't want to see them making out and stuff, but
I say keep that out. Keep that out of the. There's no point for it. It's just you two are dating. Oh, it's going to be so cute. But there's like, what are you going to do with this?
Right.
Like, what is it going to? I feel like it's not going to lead to anything. Just like Cena and Bella didn't lead to anything. It didn't give us anything good.
Wow, he proposed to her at WrestleMania, so that's something.
But, like,
I mean,
did anybody I don't know. Did anybody really want to see that?
Well, we also knew they weren't really proposed. Well, yeah, I think a lot of people did want to see it, but we also knew they weren't really engaged at that point either.
I guess I'm just not the demographic.
Well, okay, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I think the masses though probably saw a little bit differently, but yeah, no, it should be interesting. Extreme Rules coming up in a couple weeks. It's all building up for a SummerSlam. I think we'll probably see a Roman Reigns versus Undertaker at SummerSlam, unless you want to see Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre again.
Okay, I could go for that.
Speaking of, do you think the wild card? Do you think it's working?
No,
you don't.
No, I don't think it's working. I like the rules. Whatever rules were kind of, sort of, maybe explained, they just don't follow them anymore. Basically,
yeah, it's supposed to be 4, but I feel like they've had more than 4 at some times, right? Maybe they haven't, but I feel like they have.
Oh, definitely. Well, there was the one where Vince is like, well, it's supposed to be 4, but I forget who it was. It was somebody big, and so he's like, well, I guess we'll do 5. And
well, it's Lars Sullivan. That's
right.
3, and then they made it 4 because of that. But I feel like there have been more than 4.
There's been people popping all over the place, and the problem is it's the same people appearing over and over again, and it's pushing out other talent that could really use that time. Like that was maybe one of the few good things about the brand split is you never worry about oversaturation on both shows. But I mean I think you could just get around that with better booking and better writing. You just you just balance things out yourself. So no, I don't think it's working. I think it's just a farce. Like it's just I mean, this was suggested by the network. So,
yeah. Well, there's an agreement, as we understand, between Vince McMahon and the network, specifically Fox. But I overall, for what it is, I think it's working. But then I call into question, why not just have no brands then? Yeah. There's so much back and forth. It's just, at this point to have a wild card. I mean, that's where I'd suggested the whole free agency on titles. So when you're a champion, you can go between the shows. If you lose that title, then you become part of that show. And then it's like a golden ticket, kind of a free agency. Title allows you to go all throughout WB. So 205, NXT, Raw, SmackDown.
Good.
That way there's some law to the land, but it's just, to me, it's way too much. I mean, I think I think the wild card works for what it's supposed to be, but I call into question, why not just have no split, just have all the brands together?
Yeah, I don't know, we'd have to figure out how Vince McMahon's mind works. It's almost like he's too stubborn. He doesn't want to go back on the brand split, even though I'm pretty sure they did it before. They had a brand split and then they took it away, the brand split, and they brought it back, right? So it's like, just freaking do it. Just break the walls down, Vince.
Well, and it makes the titles mean so much more. When you have 2 tag titles, when you have 2 women's titles, when you have 2 men's titles, it doesn't mean as much. It's like splitting up a championship into 2. But when you have one world champion, one women's champion, one tag champion, these titles mean so much more.
Yeah. Totally.
And now with the 24/7 title, everyone can be champions. So you don't have to worry about not putting someone over. If someone comes to your office and complains, say, hey, it's the revival again, just give them the 24/7 title.
Yeah. Speaking of the 24/7 title, that's probably the bright spot of WWE programming yet again.
It is. I think they have to. Now, I thought this past week wasn't as creative, mainly because, I mean, it was what they did with like Drake Maverick's wedding. That was fine. But on the actual Monday Night Raw, it's kind of just sort of, they were interrupting matches, sort of the same thing they've done before, which is fine. But I want to keep seeing seeing more like more fun stuff. Like maybe R-Truth is like running around the ring or running around the building.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's like, man, I'm thirsty. He gets in line for the concessions.
Ah.
And he goes up to the concessionaire and he's like, I'll take one bottle of water. He's like, as he's looking for his money, all of a sudden someone out of nowhere just shows up and just hits him over the head with a bag of popcorn and pins him 1, 2, 3.
There you go.
You know, something like that. Like, I just hope they kind of keep exploring
they gotta
things
keep
like
it
that.
fresh.
Yeah. Where I felt like this past Monday night was just sort of like shells of what they've done. But again, you can't always top yourself.
Yeah.
So to speak. But no, I like what they're doing actually with it. And I hope they keep these things up. Drake Maverick's wedding, that was perfect.
That was good.
They've had these different, and I think they missed a golden opportunity last week.
Oh, with the elevator?
In the elevator, where they had 40 different title changes, only if a referee had been stuck in the elevator with them.
Right.
You know, and they could have had like an intergender match at one point. Carmella could have been the champion. And that wouldn't be the first time. One of the Godfather's hoes was a hardcore champion.
Right.
Yeah. So she was a hardcore champion for like a hot second. But
so if you look in the history books of WWE, is it going to say hardcore champion, ho?
That's actually a good question. I don't know what it would say, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, you have to think about that list of the hardcore championship.
It's gonna be long now.
It's not gonna be as long as the 24/7 title. I think it's gonna surpass that. But I mean,
Probably.
like for example, you had Perry Saturn. He has the dubious honor. Well, I think they tried to say Jinder Mahal was as a 24/7 champion. I think he held it for like 11 seconds.
Okay.
But actually, Perry Saturn has the dubious honor of being the having the shortest title reign in history. 4 seconds.
Oh gosh.
He pinned someone, and someone rolled him over quickly. 1, 2, 3, or after that, and he had it for literally about a second.
Wow.
He had it for about 4 seconds. 3 of those seconds, he was getting pinned.
Hey, a record's a record, right?
Record's a record. So, but I think that the 24/7 title is going to surpass the hardcore title.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, this is a great thing for social media. Again, I just hope they keep doing things like around the building, around town that day.
Yeah.
People are like, it really generates excitement. Like, I think they could have actually had, if they'd done something like throughout, and where was it this past? It wasn't in Tacoma. That was the pay-per-view. Where it was about, trying to remember where the actual Raw was. But if they had actually went around town, you know, and actually did things, it might get people excited. And like, hey, I'm going to go see it tonight and see what they do. Oh, Roman Reigns is going to be there. I remember Roman Reigns. And then people might be like, oh, maybe Brock Lesnar will cash in. It gets people talking.
That's a good point.
And it generates this kind of excitement. So if they have that 24/7 title literally always on the line, like in the city itself, and they have been doing this, I just think they could do more of it.
Right.
I think they could put themselves over more and generate more traffic and generate more viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. They got their opportunity. They need to run with it more. I think I don't know. My understanding is that the truth and has been kind of, I don't want to say the mastermind behind the direction the 24/7 belt's been going, but from what I understand, he's been given a little bit more creative freedom.
Well, he's an 8-time 24/7 champion.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
only been around for, 5 weeks?
Yeah.
That's 2 title changes a week, basically.
That's true. But yeah, no, I like you said, I hope they can keep it fresh. I'm afraid it might just fall into a formula of, R-Truth crawls out from under the ring and then it interrupts a match every time. You know.
Well, we have to remember, R-Truth is a veteran. He's a 3-time NWA TNA champion. He's been a world title before. He's been a world champion before. Of course, he had a stint as K-Quick back in the Attitude Era, so he's been around for quite a while.
That's right.
And like I said, he's a ring veteran. He's one of the few people that Vince McMahon actually entrusted to cut their own promos.
Yeah.
Like R-Truth actually is not scripted. He actually just goes out there and does his thing. The whole little Jimmy thing, that was his idea. So yeah, I think that he's sort of entrusted to do this. So yeah, I think you got something that's working here. I would say keep it up. I mean, because again, it's getting back to the competition. You got Smackdown, which is going to go to Fox on Friday night, and you'll have Monday Night Raw. We got to make these shows really interesting, especially now that we're going to have. It's looking like Wednesday Night Dynamite.
It looks like it.
And we'd call that. They'd sort of mentioned Tuesday Night Dynamite, but then it was like, well, no, what about the NBA deal? So, but yeah, it's I think officially, as you saw, it was Wednesday Night Dynamite.
Wednesday night, going head to head with NXT. Well, we don't know the exact time.
Right.
But it's definitely the same day as NXT.
Well, I think it's going to be, actually will, because I think it's 7 to 9, I think is what, unless they're doing 8 to 10.
Even then, still overlap.
Well, actually, it might even be 8 to 10 because I think they are doing TV 14.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
So it might actually be 8 to 10, but yeah, we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, we've said this before, it's going to be a heck of a fall for wrestling. You're going to have Monday Night Raw, of course, still, the flag bearer. You're going to have Wednesday Night Dynamite. You'll still have NXT. And then Friday nights will be owned by Fox, as they do, as far as Friday Night SmackDown.
Can we talk about this Friday Night SmackDown deal?
Yeah.
Their ratings are so in the shitter. Like, what do you think Fox is thinking right now? Like, do you think they're worried? Do you think Vince has got them placated? He's like, oh, this is just temporary. Don't worry, guys. Like, what do you like? Because if I were Fox, I'd be really looking at Vince saying, what are we doing here? This is a $1 billion deal here, and you're serving up crap. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a stipulation that they have to bring in a minimum of 3 million viewers every week. And I think the last episodes of Raw and SmackDown here were like 2 million people or even less, I think, in the third hour. So it's like what do you think? How do you think Fox is taking this?
I don't think they're concerned so much. I think Vince has probably said, hey, it's kind of a temporary thing. I also, and this is kind of holding to my theory, where I think Brock Lesnar is going to cash in and be the WWE champion on Fox. I think that Fox realizes, when we get Brock Lesnar, things will
think they're counting on that?
turn up. Yeah,
Okay.
because I think
Okay.
that
That makes sense.
Stats don't necessarily lie, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, Brock Lesnar, when
He
he's
is a
on a
draw.
pay-per-view, he
Yeah.
draws. He improves the buy rate. So I think that Fox is seeing that once they get their toy, the champion, things are gonna go up. Plus,
Okay.
I think it's gonna go to a whole other audience because they're also banking on, let's see, Brock Lesnar being part of Fox. Fox also has a UFC deal.
Fox Sports
They're hoping to get that over. So I think that they're going to remain steadfast, but I think there's definitely some concern. That being said, I think that every concern they brought up, Vince has worked with them. That's why you see like the wild card and all that.
Sure.
And I think they also realize, and I've said this before, the WWE, they are a flag bearer. They're always going to be around. They evolve. I shouldn't say
I'm making
always.
a face right now,
I
audience.
shouldn't say always, but there's a good chance they'll always be around because they're always evolving.
Right.
They're like Google. They got their tentacles in every little crevice in the universe they can. I think WWE will always pretty much be around. I mean, again, I say that, but look back at the Monday Night Wars. NWO and WCW basically almost took them out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, like people said that about Sears. People said that about Toys R Us.
But that's the thing. Well, Toys R Us is coming back, by the way. I don't know if you saw that, but Sears.
Is it really?
Yes,
oh, wow.
it is. They're actually reopening in the U.S.
Louise.
But to that point of Sears, thing about it is they didn't evolve. They were a catalog, and that was about it.
That's
they didn't
true.
do things online. WWE keeps evolving. That's why I think they'll always be a flag bearer.
Okay, I'm with you. That's a good point. I mean, I don't want to get into the whole thing about Vince McMahon, but I do feel
Let's talk about Sears.
I do feel that some people have expiration dates in terms of their creative talent. Like I see it with bands, I see it with comedians.
Hitting a peak, and yeah.
I'm not saying I want that to be the case or anything like that, but I'm starting to feel like Vince is starting to go sour on his creative thing. I'm not saying he should be dumped or whatever and just everything handed over to Triple H. I'm just saying maybe he shouldn't be the head of creative.
Or at least have the final say. I think he should be part of creative.
He should absolutely be part of it, but he should no longer have the authority to rewrite an entire episode of Raw 3 hours before the show starts. That's the kind of reckless nonsense that
Right.
I'm sure Trips has said something to him about this because this isn't just a creative decision. This is fucking over a lot of people, a lot of your writers, your producers, your cameramen, everybody, and it shows. We've seen some episodes of Raw where we later hear that Vince was still working on it 45 minutes before they went on, or the one where they were still working on the script during the show. So it's and it shows. You could say, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. Like I said, I don't want Vince to be gone or anything like that, but I really feel like a change needs to happen behind the scenes. Like you're right, they're embracing technology, they're utilizing the internet. The WWE network was one of the first of its kind, that over the top kind of network thing with on demand and live and all this good stuff, and that's fantastic. But if the creative side it just isn't there anymore, it's gonna crumble eventually.
Well, it's almost like they're focusing too much on infrastructure, keeping things really tight. Of course, we were talking pre-show about how they're implementing the quicker pace, no action during commercial breaks, which is fine.
Right.
But I feel like they're focusing too much on the infrastructure and not just letting the workers breathe.
Yeah.
Kind of see what happens.
You know?
Yeah, loosen up. But then again, we say that there's also sponsors. Mattel, as we understand, that's probably a big reason, if we're to understand correctly.
It seems like it, yeah.
It seems that it's a big reason why we don't see intergender matches.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things we don't see. Of course, we're not behind the scenes, but I think there's also things where it's just an opportunity to let some of these guys and gals do their thing.
Yeah. Just let them go out.
But that's the thing. That's what I think competition will bring out the best.
Hope so.
I hope AEW keeps this up. I hope they bring out competition. I hope it's not just a flash in the pan like TNA was or an underground hit like ROH.
Yeah.
We need real competition. This is better for the wrestlers. This is better for the industry. It's better for us fans. That's better for everyone concerned. And I think WWE, they operate better when they have competition. Right now they're complacent.
Absolutely.
There's nothing they have to do. They just made a bunch of money and they're going to keep making more money. But for the first time, I think we've seen in the past year, they've got some feathers ruffled and they got to step it up a bit.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. It's going to be, I mentioned sports, it's going to be a great fall in terms of wrestling. But Josh, what else you got for us? Anything else?
Go out there and subscribe. Leave us a comment and tell your friends.
And hit us up in the hot box. Josh and Josh, talkwrestling@gmail.com.
Thanks. We're also on Facebook and Twitter.
That's right.
Find us there.
Instagram.
And Instagram. Just search us. Search our name. You'll find us.
We have LinkedIn yet? No, we don't have LinkedIn.
No LinkedIn.
We should do that, though.
Our MySpace page is a little under construction. It'll be done by 2007, I swear.
All right. Thanks a lot, y'all. Take care of yourselves.